Welcome back to Against the Cage. My name is Jake Aryeh, your producer and host. Our colleague Scott Fontana is still recovering from his procedure, but there's hope that he might be back next week. Looking to see how he feels. Leave it up to Scott. Listen to your body. But I am joined by my co-host Erich Richter. Eric, how we doing?
Doing good, man. I'm trying not to look at my 401k right now as the stock market crashes, but otherwise I'm good. Hey, I'm one parlay away from not having to worry about my 401k. So what does it matter anyway?
There we go. There we go. Lots of news going on concerning all that stuff. But this week we also have some news related to the MMA world. We got some fights announced in our neck of the woods, Eric. Sean O'Malley is going to be getting his rematch against Merab Dvalishvili for the men's bantamweight title. June 7th, Newark, New Jersey. I will definitely be trying to be in attendance over there. Eric, we love to have you up here watching the fights with us as well. But your first reaction to Sean getting that rematch. What do you think about it?
Biggest star in the UFC. I don't think it's particularly close. I mean, other than Pereira, right? Like biggest star in the UFC that has many years to go. I'm not sure that Pereira is going to be around for too much longer. He's been fighting for so long, but who knows? Shama, right? He's got the he's got some Native American genes in him that let him go for a little bit longer than most of the other fighters in the world. So, diving into this matchup here. Rob's not very fun to watch. I mean, it's very clear who the UFC is going to want to see this win this fight. Sean O'Malley definitely sells pay-per-views, and he's a huge star on social media, TikTok, Nelk Boys, the whole shebang. Like, he's super marketable. Merab is not really marketable, just based on his style. His style is so not conducive to watching, to enjoyment. There's really nothing that interesting about him. He has manipulated his cardio to the point where he can beat just about every fighter. Sean's gonna have to come in amazing shape. He opens as a pretty big underdog, a plus 225 underdog, and I could see it getting higher than that by the time we get to that fight in June. I don't know what Sean's gonna do differently. I've talked to Sean. I've met Sean a couple times, and I talked to Sean about when he was gonna fight. I hung out with him in December, and he said that he had a shoulder surgery, and then he was hoping to fight around International Fight Week, and then he ends up getting this fight in June. So he was pretty on with that timetable, and I'm expecting a good performance out of Sean. He's had a nice layoff here. He's had a good time, but I would like to see him come in best shape of his career. Him and his coach Tim Welch, also a friend, and yeah, I have hopes for Sean to win this fight. I think it'd be good for the UFC, good for the fans, good for the fan base, good for everybody.
I will push back a little bit on the Merab not being terribly entertaining. Obviously, that Jose Aldo fight, that kind of was one of the ones that gave him the bad rap. But that last fight with Umar Nurmagomedov, I do like seeing Merab kind of open up. He was taking down Umar and kind of taunting him, doing the this sort of thing when the kick goes. So I feel like that personality that we see Merab out of the cage that we know and love. Once that kind of goes into the cage, I do think that he's a little bit more entertaining. But I do understand what you're saying about the pressure grappling, and it doesn't leave room for the exchanges that maybe we'd want to see from like a Sean O'Malley. But to your point, I do think that he is going to probably have a better performance this fight. He's off social media. He's sworn off of that. That's something that he was probably spending more time than he maybe should have before this. So you could tell that he's very focused on this fight. My question is, do you think that this title shot is deserved? I know that the UFC, we've said this before, is not a meritocracy, but do you think that Sean is the one that deserves this shot?
Yeah, honestly, I do. I think that Sean's done enough. I like so like all right, Paddy Pimblett, right? Eventually at 155, we'd expect it. Even if he beats Chandler, he can get a title shot. I don't think that that would be necessarily deserved. There have been other times where a fighter has been pushed up the pyramid a little bit too quick. Alex Pereira being one of them, even at one point, people were saying that. So that from that standpoint, I don't think O'Malley fits into that category. He was dominating people at that division. No one can strike with Sean O'Malley. So from a deserve standpoint, give me the Sugar Show, man. I love the Sean O'Malley's whole style. His knockouts, they are a highlight reel. They go like, do you remember how many? I don't know how many views off the top of my head, but I remember when he knocked out Aljamain Sterling, the UFC did something unprecedented. They allowed Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley, that whole fight was just uploaded to YouTube immediately, right after the pay-per-view. Never seen that before. And that's when you know the UFC's in, right? They are all in. They threw that entire fight on YouTube, and that knockout got millions of views within a day. I would love to see what it's at now. And for me, I think that we are here for show business. We're a box office up in here. So if we're shooting for box office, we're trying to make some money. Sean O'Malley, 100%. I don't even really. I mean, who would you say would be a better contender for the title
So
after Umar was lost?
it's an interesting question because when I first heard the news, I'm like, okay, well, Sean, his last fight, he lost to Merab, and he only had one title defense before that against someone who really. There's a storyline there, of course, with Chito Vera, but like, it's not like he really was the number one contender. The fight kind of made sense to make because of the storyline, with Sean. But at first, I heard it and I was kind of disappointed with it, and then you take a look at the rankings, and in your defense, there's not too much other options that would really make much more sense than Sean. Piotr Jan, that first fight that they had, Merab 50-45 to him. The pressure and grappling was just too much for Jan. I think with one more win, it could make sense to maybe run it back. Piotr Jan's always game. Song Yadong, he lost to Piotr. This top 5, top 10, there's not really a name that could go in there. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just complaining over nothing. I'm making some
You know
complaints.
what the name is? You know what the name is that should be is Aljamain Sterling. But Aljamain Sterling refuses to fight his teammate. That's who it should have been. Aljamain at some point here should have gotten the opportunity to fight for
In a
this
different
title.
world, you mean? Yeah.
Well, not even a different world. Fight. Go fight. You are a fighter.
I
You're a fighter. It doesn't matter if he's your teammate. You are a fighter. I have a jujitsu teammate who like they met in the championship of a grappling industries. They had to fight. That is what it is. This isn't like new. This happens in the fight game all the time. Go fight.
Yeah, I just don't, at this point, I don't think his body could make 135. But it is interesting that you do mention someone else in another weight class because Alexandre Pantoja is a name that I have been hearing could have been a worthy contender, maybe more than, say, Sean. But I think that Sean fight is going to be doing better numbers than the Pantoja one. But what would you have thought if that was the fight that they announced? Would Pantoja have
Pantoja's
made
gonna get
sense?
taken. Yeah, Pantoja's gonna get taken down, and my view of it is like if you're gonna get a takedown, you have to get a submission because he's the striking is gonna be kind of meh to watch anyway, and Marab's just gonna be shooting takedowns, and he doesn't really defend takedowns well, Pantoja. So I'm all set on that. I think Merab takes him down, probably 50-45s him. Like that's just what he does. Unless Pantoja can get off like a front headlock submission, but Merab hasn't really shown a propensity to be available to even hit those.
Yeah, well, as far as, getting takedown after takedown, that's sort of what happened in, the first fight with Sean and Merab. He's relentless with that takedown pressure. As far as how this next fight is going to go, how worried are you that we're going to see more of the same of that?
Extremely worried. Any fight that Merab is going to have is this is what it is, right? This is what Merab's entire game is built around. He has manipulated cardio to the point where no one can even come close. And it's amazing, but it's just not very fun,
The best
right? Like
defense is sometimes a great offense.
right. Well, so that's kind of what it is. Like there really isn't a whole lot of offense. It's almost so bad that I've actually thought about the UFC needs to change the rules of how they score the fights because Merab has manipulated it to the point where he almost feels like he's broken the sport. Because when you look at it, it's all forward pressure and it's all grappling against the cage, but there's really not that, there's many times there has been a lot of damage, right? I'm not saying that he's not a damaging fighter, but there have been times where it's just been cage push. I mean, you talked about it with Aldo. It was just cage push, and that was it. And he won the decision there. I think that I don't know what the answer would be in terms of how you would fix scoring in that situation, but regardless, we've just anytime that Merab fights, I'm always gonna be worried about it. In the UFC, I'm sure when they offered O'Malley this fight, he's like, "Go knock this dude out." I'm positive that they said that, and I don't think they're above saying that. I think that they would say that. So yeah, for me, anytime Merab fights, I'm worried about it. Yeah, for sure.
Fair enough. I do hope that we see, a little bit more action and the fight goes a little bit different than that first one.
Well,
Want to see more of that personality from Rob, though. I think that that's something that he can really,
I
grab
would
a hold of.
argue that you could even say that you could. I mean, if it wasn't O'Malley, right? O'Malley's such a star, but like in a different world against a fighter, Merab could be a co-main event to what the co-main event is in this card.
That's a good point. So that brings us to the next point. We've got Juliana Pena defending her bantamweight title. We got two bantamweight title fights on this card, and she's going to be taking on Kayla Harrison. Eric, first reactions off of that. I mean, it's not incredibly surprising, But now that we've got this fight booked, I mean, what do you think?
Super fight. Super fight. Awesome fight. Love Juliana Pena. Love Kayla Harrison. By all accounts, these two are the most well-rounded bantamweights that we have to offer right now. I think that Kayla Harrison, who is a sizable favorite in this fight, no surprise, she's more physically gifted. I'm pretty sure she was an Olympic gold medalist in
Judo.
judo.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. So she's an Olympic gold medalist in judo. I was like, you might have to fact check that, but yeah, gold medalist in judo, and definitely more physically talented than any women that we've seen in a long time. It's
Yeah,
definitely
Chris
close.
Cyborg maybe, but like same vein. I mean, you look at them and they're just like, my God, like
Yeah, like she is just unbelievably talented, especially with the judo throws, the wrestling, the submission game, the ground and pound. Good Lord, tough matchup for Juliana Pena. She's gonna have to have another big night. She's gonna have to pull another rabbit out of a hat like she did against Amanda Nunes. She needs to pull out a rabbit and let the crowd go wild again and say, "I'm not surprised." But yeah, for me, I think that Harrison, big favorite here. I think that she prevails. And then you know what's coming next.
yes, the return of the lioness. That's
We gotta get her
yeah.
back.
I mean, this
We
is really just the appetizer. I mean, it's a great appetizer, but like
oh,
that's the meat and potatoes
I'll
right
take the
there.
buffet of it. I'll take the buffet of Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison's an amazing fight. But Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes should headline any card. If it's a co-main event, I will be pissed. It better be the main event. And
So,
I'm sure that if Scott were here, he'd say that it won't be the main event. But that
question
should be
for
a
you is talking about Sean O'Malley. Of course, it's pretty obvious that the UFC wants would rather Sean win. Kayla Harrison's got to be that for this women's fight, right? Because I mean, we've seen Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes in that rematch. She beats Juliana Pena pretty handily. And there's not too much excitement for maybe a third one. Kayla Harrison, on the other hand, that's a whole different story, right?
Yeah, Juliana Pena, she had a hard time getting her rematch after she lost the belt. So, like to say who's the A side of each fight, usually it'd be the champion. I'd actually argue that it's the not champion in both main event and co-main event. Who's the A side of the matchup? Like who's the most popular? Who does the promotion want? The promotion wants O'Malley, and the promotion probably wants Kayla Harrison. So, and new is what they're hoping for. Parlay it.
So, what do you? I'm just curious. Do you have any predictions for these two events? If you had to, put your crystal ball hat on, what would you think?
Want to say Sean. I gotta see how he looks in the lead up.
He's got that one punch knockout power. It could happen.
It's unreal his knockout power, and he was able to beat Sterling pretty handily. I'm so concerned. I want to know what kind of shape he's in. So I'm gonna do some reconnaissance work and let you know if he's in good shape. But
Stay
if he's
tuned
in
for
good
next
shape,
week.
how's the shoulder? And then we can get into a prediction. Too early right now. What would I say betting wise? Where's the line gonna go? Merab could easily end up here as a minus 350 favorite. I saw it open at minus 275. I could see minus 350. So where do I think the line will go? I think Merab's line's gonna snowball here, and I
A
would
lot of
venture to
Suga
guess.
fans, though. I don't know. I could see a lot of people put Suga just, but they're probably betting by knockout is the thing.
So, well, the public is probably betting week of, whereas the sharps are getting the opening lines,
Hmm.
and they're trying to beat the opening line, and then they're going to try to beat the end line once public money comes in. That's usually how the sharps go. So, yeah, I'd say the line will probably steer more in the Marab way, and then maybe public will back Sean as the week progresses.
Okay, gotcha. And just rounding out UFC 316, I believe, in Newark, New Jersey. Which one would you say you're more excited for, the main event or the co-main event?
The co-main event. Yeah, that's a great fight. I love watching Kayla Harrison. I think she's super entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just because honestly, if Juliana wins, there's not a guarantee that Amanda. I mean, there's no guarantee regardless, but I feel like it's much more likely that Kayla comes back, or that Jul.
Amanda comes back.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you,
100%.
appreciate that. So
100%.
I think that's really like the what we're waiting to kind of see if that happens.
Absolutely.
So, alrighty. So that was not the only thing that Dana White announced live on social media, which I know you're a huge fan of, Eric. He also announced that they would be partnering with Meta AI. Of course, Dana White is already a board of directors of Meta, which just sounds weird coming out of my mouth. But yeah, he made some announcements saying that they're going to be working with Meta on rankings as well as coming out with some new fan content. The fan content we'll get to in a second, but as far as the rankings, this is something that he's been talking about, trying to have AI do the UFC rankings, just because he's so upset with how MMA journalists rank fighters pound for pound and in the rankings themselves. Eric, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that this AI ranking system could work, or do you have to leave it to the seasoned professionals?
Well, the thing about that is it's not even left up to the seasoned professionals, right? So, like, I mean, we could even talk about this, but Ariel Helwani did the correct breakdown of this, but
Yes.
on the Ariel Helwani podcast, he even said like none of the big time journalists are actually even on that rankings list. Like, they're not even doing it. Like, if Luke Thomas was doing it, UFC would never let him. But like, if Luke Thomas and Ariel Helwani were doing the rankings, then okay, it would have some like credence, or me or Scott Fontana or you or whoever. Like, if there was like real journalists that were doing it, fine. But like, you got like a bunch of guys from like websites I've literally never heard of, and
Yeah.
it's not shade. I've literally never heard of any of the people that are doing it. So that whole thing is just like the rankings thing. I don't even care because like no one has taken it seriously. The journalists aren't real journalists. They probably don't even cover MMA anymore. They've been doing it forever. And then the UFC obviously hasn't put any care into it either, if that's who's doing it. So go ahead, do the AI thing for the rankings. That's fine. Honestly, I welcome it. I don't think it will mean anything. And like I don't really the UFC doesn't really pay attention to the rankings either.
Yeah,
So it's like
that's another thing. It's like so funny because Dana White seems to be the person who's the most upset about it, but the
yeah.
UFC doesn't care at all. They don't go by them anyways.
No,
So
nobody does. Nobody does. So that whole thing is very confusing to me. Rankings wise, don't care. Never did.
yeah,
Go for it. Whatever. It makes you happy, do it.
yeah. I'm curious to see. I mean, I've seen some memes on like X and Dana White, like the red vein face, like that one meme, that one picture. It's like when the rankings from Meta don't put John Jones in the top 5 pound for pound. I don't know. I'm curious to see how those work out because I mean, at the end of the day, like if you go just based off of stats and just one fight alone, for instance, like the strikes and all that stuff, that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story to a fight, and it's kind of hard to quantify that stuff in ranking someone as well. So I don't know. Meta's obviously a huge company. They're doing big things. They've been doing big things. So maybe it'll end up working out. But I am really curious to see if it sticks in the same line of thought as the general fan base. So that'll be interesting to see. Dana also announced this new fan content that would be coming out from Meta. Not a lot of information. It was a really quick video of Dana White kind of just saying that this is something that they're starting to work on. But Eric, I know you've got some thoughts on this fan content. What do you think we can expect, or just general thoughts about this announcement?
At the risk of beating a dead horse, right? Dana White goes on, he's like, big announcement, we're doing it like live on social media, everyone gets excited. And then like you even see like some reporters who know nothing. Some reporters who are like, I think it's Derek Lewis in Kansas City and something like that. And I was like, no, he doesn't even say anything about it, right? He just goes in, he's like, we're doing a partnership with Meta AI. It's like, well, you kind of have been saying that for the last 3 years. So it's like, what are we doing? Like official announcement on social media? I still don't get it. Like if we're gonna do fight announcements, let's do fight announcements. But can we not do this whole thing where we're pretending it's a fight announcement and then we're doing some like business transaction press release? It makes no sense. I hate it. I can't say it enough. I hate it. And then like when we get into like the fan content, it's just another way for Meta to get sales. They're just trying to get sales from combat sports fans, which is already way too expensive to be a fan of. They want all of this is, and if you guys haven't put this together, that's fine. But I'm telling you what the announcement is going to end up being. It is going to be Meta is announcing with their Oculus Rift goggles, or their AI, their metaverse goggles. They want to do fan content inside the metaverse involving the UFC in some capacity where you can put yourself in the screen. I'm sure it'll be awesome. It'll be expensive. It's going to be like $700 for the goggles. Then you're probably gonna have to pay an additional amount to get into like the metaverse UFC octagon. It's all a money thing. And like I feel like, look, everyone needs to make money, but but being a UFC fan is so expensive already that it's almost insulting to a fan, especially a fan of like fighting, where it's already kind of niche, where they're just juicing you to death. It's $1,100 to be a fan of per year. If you include all the pay-per-views, which are $80 a pop, plus ESPN plus whatever else, Fight Pass. Like you got monthly charges, pay-per-view charges. It's all just so expensive. And I wish that the UFC would just stop trying to juice the customers. But everybody wants to make money, but even the NFL doesn't do this. Even
Yeah.
the NFL is more fair than this.
Forget about going to an actual event, especially like a pay-per-view event.
Don't even forget it. It's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
MSG I mean MSG is pretty expensive, but like even Newark, say for instance, like some of those seats up in the nosebleeds are going to be, around like $1,000, something like that. So to your point, one other thing that I could totally see them doing with this Oculus metaverse thing is, oh, can you not afford, to pay $1,000 for this seat here? You can pay this much to have like a Oculus camera sitting in the in the arena, to give you
Right.
the UFC cage experience. So I don't know,
But
but
take it from somebody that sat cage side before. It's cool, but you can't see everything. Like the
you got to look
TV,
up at the TV.
the TV is still the best. It's still the best way to watch.
But it is awesome seeing like the
The vibe is,
atmosphere.
yeah.
That's what you're paying for.
They put
Definitely.
on a show. Their production quality at the UFC. I've been to like Jake Paul boxing fights and UFC. I haven't been to like a big like Canelo fight or anything, but the production value at the UFC is better than any other promotion by far.
Yeah. And I mean, we're ones to talk because obviously, like press passes, credentials, we don't have to pay any money for it. But my God, like when Bob O'Reilly comes on in that when the main card opens up, that right there is
Yeah,
amazing. It's really good.
yeah. They put on some promos too that they don't show on TV, which are sometimes really good.
Yes, yeah. So we'll see what happens in terms of what kind of fan content that they're putting out. Hopefully, some of it is free
Get
because
your credit cards ready.
UFC fans could probably use that. So that was the news of this week. We'll have some more quick hits, some pretty crazy ones in there as well, some smaller topics. But let's go back to last weekend, or this past weekend. Brandon Moreno, another win in the books for him, defeating Steve Erceg. Eric, what did you think? What do you think? We don't have to talk too much about the fight itself unless you have specific thoughts about it. But just the fact that Brandon Moreno's got another win at flyweight, it just this whole flyweight title picture, it's just in kind of shambles right now. What do you think about it?
Yeah.
What's
I think
next?
you could probably argue for Brandon Moreno to get a title shot here pretty soon.
Hmm.
I thought he looked really good against Steve Erceg. It was kind of as predicted. It's almost like we didn't even need to watch the fight. You know what I mean? Like he was like he kind of just expected Moreno to out cardio him for, 25 minutes, and then Erceg. I thought he actually looked better than I thought he would. He definitely stole at least a round in there. It's definitely 1-1 after two.
Hmm.
I thought Erceg looked solid, honestly. I thought Erceg was going to get kind of steamrolled there. I thought his striking looked good. Volume was never going to be a thing for him, and he was never going to have the grappling. That's why it was like if he doesn't get the if Moreno's chin holds up and he doesn't get the TKO, like that's going to be pretty rough. But for me, I think Moreno's definitely like he's not too far off from a title shot. I'd say
Yeah,
that. I
it's one of
think
those
I'm
things. He's kind of like a Max Holloway in that division, where it's just like God, they've
Can he
fought
get over?
3 times.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, can he get over the hump? I do think he can. I think he could. I do. But flyweight is one of those weird divisions where it's like 1 through 10 can kind of just win or lose on any given night. Like that split decision loss to Brandon Royval, it's gonna look bad for Brandon Moreno's future. Um, yeah, he needs probably at least one more win, but maybe he even fights Brandon Royval again. I'd watch that. Like see if he can get that one back, and then if he can get that one back, then fight for the title. I'd like to see him fight one more time and then fight for a title if he wins.
Yeah, just because they have fought 3 times. Like I kind of made this comparison already. Like it's kind of like a Max Holloway situation where
Yeah.
you have to sell this fight to the fans again. But I don't know. Muhammad Makayev could come into that flyweight division, throw a wrench and everything. So we'll see if they bury the hatchet there.
It sounded pretty promising, honestly.
Yeah, and honestly, I would watch that. I would have to say I'd be a little bit more excited for the Muhammad because he was the rightful #1 contender, purely
Absolutely.
based off of merit when he got cut from the UFC. But you got to feel for Steve Erceg. Like you said there, he looked a lot better than maybe some people would have expected. And this guy's just been put in front of like Thanos after Thanos. Like it went from Pantoja to Kai Kara to Brandon Moreno. It's like God, give this guy a break. Like that is a crazy 3 fight streak in terms of just like fights to take.
How it
So,
goes at flyweight, man. The flyweight, like I said, it's like everyone seems to kind of fight on thin margins
hmm
in the flyweight division. If you fight on thin margins, you're gonna have a hard time. Like there are some fighters that don't really fight on thin margins, like they only lose if they get finished, you know. But if you fight on thin margins, like Brandon Moreno fights on thin margins. Like if he gets hit, if he gets rocked, like he's gonna have a hard time. Like him and Davison Figueiredo, like we saw it. He gets rocked, like he's gonna lose, but like he'll always like kind of eke out a decision. He's like really good at that. He's really
hmm
good at like just being like he kind of like is the kind of guy that take one and deliver two, pretty consistently. And that's what Brandon Moreno's strengths have been. It's been impressive, man. Fight assignment, watch Brandon Moreno versus Alexander Pantoja in the Contender Series.
oh, there we
Brandon
go.
Moreno's a nobody,
That one
and Alex.
I
Oh,
actually did. I actually have watched that one.
mm,
If you're a true New York Post MMA fan, back in the day when yours truly used to do Fight Week, that was one of the fights that I had to watch for that in
oh, okay.
preparation. So,
Oh, fun, yeah, yeah.
but
That's
one thing that I am curious, just to round out kind of this flyweight title picture, is if you had to predict who is the right person, who's the next dance partner for Alexandre Pantoja.
mm,
It's tough. It's really tough. I was thinking Kai would probably be the next one up, but
I don't love that fight.
neither do I.
I like Moreno Royval. It's tough. I guess I could go Kai Kara France because you just did Azakura and that was not a good fight. Like they're literally looking for anybody that could fight Pantoja, even outside the organization. Muhammad Makayev,
That's the one.
bring him back.
That's the one.
UFC is so stubborn, man. It's crazy. That's like the most stubborn thing ever. Unless Makayev did something horrible, which by all accounts hasn't,
hmm
get him back in there.
I agree. I agree. That's the one to make. That's in Dana's words. That's the fight to make.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So that was last weekend. Let's go into this weekend. We got not one but two major MMA nights ahead of us. We have tonight. PFL, their tournaments begin. Featherweight and welterweight tournaments start. That main card is at 8 p.m. tonight. Eric, what do you like about these fights going on tonight?
Main event is awesome. The main event is really good. You got Andre Koreshkov versus Jason Jackson. Like that is box office. That is that like outside the UFC, that is a big fight. Koreshkov comes in as a plus 200 dog, I believe plus 195 when I looked right before I came on here. But um, I'm pretty impressed with this card. It's solid. They've lost a couple fighters due to pullouts, which that sucks. But
Yeah, Magomed Umlatov, if you hadn't heard, he didn't he lost the first fight against the scale. Let's put it that way. So he is off and he's been replaced. So
yeah,
it's
major
yeah.
major bummer, but still really good main event. Top to bottom, it's not a bad card.
Yeah. And another thing about Umlatov too is he was kind of one of the people that, was really in the running as far as if you're going to pick someone to win that welterweight tournament. He was right in there. So that kind of changes this picture. Is there anyone fighting tonight that you think has got a good chance of taking that trophy at the end?
Haha, we'll see.
We'll
We'll
see.
see. I'm not too sure. I like Jason Jackson's obviously a big favorite in this fight,
Yeah.
so like, he would probably be one of the favorites. But I want to see Koreshkov. Like I want to see how he looks in this fight because I'm intrigued on him as an underdog. I do a lot of MMA live betting. I want to like kind of see and feel how everything's going. Like obviously you come in with some preconceived notions, understand where the cardio is at for each fighter, but I also watch it very closely, and then I'll start firing off live bets. So yeah, that's kind of just my strategy, and then we'll see from there.
Alrighty, cool. Well, if you're not busy tonight, PFL's on Thursday night fights. You don't get them very often, so go ahead
Yeah,
and give them a watch.
super.
We also got UFC on this Saturday night. Josh Emmett will be taking on Lerone Murphy at the Warehouse, our favorite establishment. That will be starting at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m.s for the prelims, 9 p.m. for the main card. Eric, do you think that this is worthy of a fight night main event?
Yeah, I'm fine with
Okay,
this.
there we go.
I think Josh Emmett's awesome.
Yeah.
Josh Emmett is one of the more entertaining fighters. There's a world where Josh Emmett never um like he wins the belt like on his first come up. He blew out his leg and I don't know the details of it. I'm not like close with Uriah Faber or anyone in that camp, but from what they've said in The Ultimate Fighter when I think it was Garbrandt and Dillashaw when they did that, like they were talking about Josh Emmett like he was a world killer, and then right after that he blew out his leg and missed like 2 years. Um, and it's like such a bummer. But Emmett's really come back. Like just to see where Emmett is now, think about where he could have been, like
Hmm.
without the injury, without like a really bad injury like that. So I have so much respect for Josh Emmett. He's so big for 145. Like he's just so thick. It's crazy.
Crazy power too.
The maybe the best power ever for the division, like just power. Like if you did a power test, like with like one of those punch machines, I think Emmett would probably win against any featherweight. Like more
Currently,
than
yeah. Taporia is not in there in that conversation anymore, so that
Poirier is a good
makes
one.
things a little bit
Poirier is a good one too, no doubt. But
yeah.
there's just so much power in both of those hands. Yeah, so I'm excited. It's gonna be a good fight.
Yeah, and Lerone Murphy's always game, so that'll be an interesting one. Let's go to some of our fights to watch. For Scott, I will be giving his fight in his stead. His is on the PFL card, which is on tonight. He is saying that you should watch Jesus Pinedo versus Adam Boric at featherweight. Eric, what do you like for this weekend?
Kennedy and Nzechukwu, I've always been a fan. You dating back like back in the day, like he always has power in his punches and he's good volume, which you don't see a lot of heavyweight, and he always seems like he's in good shape. So for me, Kennedy and Nzechukwu, he's fighting Martin Buday at heavyweight. I'm interested. I know heavyweight fights mostly suck to watch, and I know a lot of people like will talk crap about them. They don't love it. I get it. That's fine. But for me, I think Kennedy and Nzechukwu is very talented, and I've always been a fan of like his body work, his cage. Like he even backs people up, and like he gets not he'll get hit sometimes too, but he backs people up. He's scary.
Alrighty, I love it. And with that, I guess we'll go into Scott's event rating for the weekend. We have PFL and UFC rankings from Scott. The PFL is at a 15, and the UFC is at an 18. So pretty neck and neck. Eric,
Wow. So a
some of your
Thursday card.
reactions?
Wow. So a Thursday card has similar rating to the UFC Saturday card.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we're getting some good fights this week. Tonight and Saturday. That's solid. Definitely gonna be watching.
yeah, got a lot of content to go through this weekend, so can't complain too much there. To round out this weekend, Eric, 3 bets, 3 minutes. Well, actually, first off, how do we do this past weekend?
Yeah, I went 1-2. Nothing crazy. I took a long shot on Manel Torres and Drew Dober to go decision at plus 550. It did not happen, obviously. And, sometimes it's how it goes with long shots. Manel Torres beat the brakes off of Drew Dober, is probably the winner of the card. And then Brandon Moreno by decision. That one was easy, plus 130. Pretty sweatless, honestly. And then Raul Rosas by submission. I thought Raul Rosas looked terrible in that fight. Against Vince
He almost
Morales.
got
So
submitted himself, unfortunately.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that for no reason. Like it's almost impossible to get Darst from bottom when he's totally on his back and isn't even on his side a little bit. And the fact that he did that makes me have serious reservations about the rest of his career.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. But you did end up getting that main event slot, so that's what matters in my opinion. You got that main one on, so let's
Yeah, well, we're looking to make money here, so like that wasn't great, and the week before wasn't great, but we've been on a really hot run up until this point, so we're gonna right the ship this week.
yeah, sounds good. Let's hear it. Eric, we are on the clock. 3 bets, 3 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, so we're gonna start. This is one of the curtain jerker fights. We got Victor Henry versus Pedro Falcao, and Victor Henry at one point was like a plus 600 underdog to Benoit Saint Denis. Has not really been super respected. He's really fights with his mind, right? And I appreciate that he's an older dude, 37, but for 37 at a bantamweight, that's old, man. Like we've seen a lot of drop offs at this division as you get older. Look, think Dominic Cruz, think Cody Garbrandt. So I'm going to take Pedro Falcao here. Pedro Falcao's never been finished in his career. He lost by TKO due to a shoulder injury, but that wasn't like an actual TKO. It wasn't like he was flatlined or anything. I'll take Falcao here. Money line plus 180 on DraftKings. I'm expecting a drop off here from Victor Henry here, no doubt. And then when we get to the next one, Ode Osborne, 3 fight losing streak, and he's fighting an undefeated Louis Garul at the same weight class. And this is a tough one. Ode Osborne's basically like you don't lose 4 in a row in the UFC. Ode Osborne loses this one, it's done. So he's gonna be fighting for his life here. I think Ode Osborne's super talented on the feet. Now, while his opponent is a little bit better at a grappling, LFA, really impressive, but I rewatched his Dana White Contender Series fight. Won by split decision. Not too, it wasn't too impressed there. LFA, he looked a lot better. But for me, I'm gonna go Otto Osborne and Gruel to go to decision. It's plus 108 on Bet Rivers. That's where I'm going. I think that Otto Osborne's super talented. I've always liked his striking. His takedown defense isn't good, but he should be able to hold out here. He's fighting for his life, like I said. And then again. Davy Grant here, another older fighter against Daniel Santos. I'm going to Santos. Santos minus 148. I usually don't like betting favorites, but I think I've never been a Davy Grant fan. He did have a really good fight against Chito Vera a couple years ago, but I've never been a fan. Takes a ton of damage. He's kind of like a Darren Elkins. He just takes a ton of damage and just keeps going, keeps coming forward. Eventually, that's going to catch up to you, and I'm going to go Santos money line minus 148. 3 bets, 3 minutes, done.
Alrighty, there we go, Eric. So that is this coming weekend wrapped up. Let's also go into some of the quicker hits of this past week. The two fights in New Jersey were not the only ones that got announced. Carlos Praches, who of course had his fight fall out for UFC 314 versus Jeff Neal. He now has a new opponent, Ian Gary, once again stepping in on short notice. The two of them will be the main event of Kansas City on April 26th. Khalil Roundtree and Jamal Hill, that fight fell out because of an injury on Jamal's side. Eric, just your first reaction to this Ian Gary Praches fight. What do you think?
Ian Gary's a savage. Ian Gary's a superstar. Ian Gary could be one of the biggest stars in the UFC if he wins this fight. If he had beaten Shavkat, then he already would be. But he's a savage. Taking this fight on 3 weeks' notice. I mean, come on, he's amazing. Awesome.
Lot of respect there. Eric, what else we got?
We got Edmund Shabazian. This is breaking news as of right before we came on, but Andre Petroski announced that he's fighting Edmund Shabazian on June 14th. That is going to be awesome. Like Edmund Shabazian was such a high level prospect. They nicknamed him the Golden Boy. He was training with Ronda Rousey right before Ronda Rousey retired. Everybody has been on Edmund Shabazian. He stinks at grappling. But and not good at takedown defense and not good at getting up. But he's really good at striking, and if he gets better at the takedown stuff, he could be a problem in this division, no doubt. So Edmund Shabazi and Andre Petroski, very interesting.
Alrighty, hopefully we get an official announcement, set that one in stone. Looking forward to that one. The GFL also announced, since the last time I saw you, the time and date for their upcoming event, the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles, May 24th and May 25th, so 2 nights. Some other news as far as GFL, Uriah Faber had to pull out of this event because of a injury he sustained during surfing, as well as Fabricio Verdum. The GFL posted a pretty random social media post after it was announced that he would be off the card. Eric, with all these guys, I mean, it's no secret. Like, the GFL is signing a bunch of older, formerly retired UFC and MMA fighters. Is this something that we're going to have to just worry about as anyone hoping to see these guys fight again? Is this sustainable?
If Faber was actually surfing while, preparing for a fight, I think that tells you everything you need to know. He's not taking.
So we'll see before, this isn't something that I necessarily considered. Like, obviously these guys are older, and maybe their bodies wouldn't be used to the same punishment that they were able to take beforehand. But the whole thing is like, these are names that you recognize, but if you're not able to get them to the cage, it's a little bit tough. Ryan Bader also announced this week that he would be parting ways with the PFL. No clear direction on where he's going to be going, but he did say that it would be interesting for him to maybe finish off his career in the UFC. What else we got, Eric?
UFC going back to Mexico against 2 Mexico cards this year. UFC loves Mexico. It's very strange. Maybe not even strange, but just interesting. But UFC Noche 320, Guadalajara, Mexico, September 13th, 2025. So that'll be, I believe that is Mexican Independence Day. And then Connor kind of soft retired from MMA, which is whatever. But he wasn't going to fight anyway. But he said he's like more interested in politics in Ireland, and he met with Trump, and he's never going to fight again. And he shouldn't. Like, he's got enough brain damage. It's all good. Yeah, so that'll be it for Connor. And then Henry Cejudo said that might have to retire because that eye poke was so bad, and it looked bad, and everybody was kind of talking about, how like he was like milking or whatever and taking his time. It's like, nope, that was pretty screwed up. So Henry Cejudo mulling retirement. So everybody should apologize to him for talking crap about him and maybe milking an injury. Weird story here. ESPN reported on it. Suman Mokhtarian, I know you guys don't know who that is. It's a fighter though. He was suspected of an organized assassination attempt. Somebody had a hit out on Suman Mokhtarian, and the fight had to be canceled in Australia due to the threat on this guy's life, which is nuts and super scary. But it's news,
Yeah.
so we're here to talk about
Well, so
it.
just to clarify, so Suman had previously had an assassination attempt on him, or at least a suspected one at the very least. And from what I understand, this next one was coming from him. So one had already been on him, and then this one is suspected to be from him on someone else. So this entire card fell through because of it. Absolutely wild stuff. So we'll see what comes off of that. Luckily, none of that's happening in PFL and the UFC this weekend. But yeah, I think that kind of rounds out the news of the week. Last thing before we go, let's do fight rec and this week in MMA. Eric, let's get to my homework. If you could remind me and the viewers, what was the
Yeah.
assignment?
So one of the final WEC events is very interesting to listen to Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg commentating. I miss Mike Goldberg, man. And
Yeah,
watching these old fights has made me miss him as a
totally.
commentator. But it was Korean Zombie versus Leonard Garcia, the first time that they had fought, and that fight is unbelievable. It's very interesting to see what styles worked then versus what works now. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about it? It was awesome.
So the only way that I could describe it to someone who hasn't seen it is imagine Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway, the point down, but it's like that for like 15 minutes. Korean Zombie was doing that before it was cool. That was literally just like his MO. That was like his fight MO, essentially. He would just stand and bang, and Leonard Garcia was a completely willing opponent to do that. So the
Yeah.
two of them were just throwing haymakers for pretty much 15 minutes. And the decision, I was watching it and I was like, Korean Zombie got the nod, and the judges, in my opinion, got it wrong. It was, I wouldn't go as far to call it a robbery, but these days people would be up in arms about that, and I'm sure people were back then. But
Yep.
yeah, what did you think?
I mean, I don't know what like I'd have to look and see what the scorecard said, but I Zombie was so ahead of his time in his cardio. Like Garcia was backing up almost the whole time. On bottom, he was exhausted. He was going for like these bad leg lock submissions that were not good. There was not a lot of technique from either fighter, but I just felt like Garcia was kind of backing up and then throwing hooks, whereas like Korean Zombie was at least coming forward and like throwing jabs and stuff. I mean, there was no defense the whole time anyway, but
Yeah, fun fight. Highly recommend
fun,
it. Yeah.
super fun. Definitely watch it if you
Yes.
didn't.
Alrighty. So what do we got coming up?
Yeah, so fight recommendation, Khabib Nurmagomedov, obviously the Eagle, one of the greatest of all time, early in his career, fought Gleison Tibau. Gleison Tibau also fought Islam Makhachev, fun fact. But him Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Gleison Tibau is a fun fight. Well, fun in quotations, looking in hindsight. If you had watched it live, you probably like that's a whatever fight between two whatever fighters that will never be big time at anything. But when you know that it's Khabib and you see the way that if you watch Khabib against Gleison Tibau, you will see a totally different fighter than what you had saw at the end of his career. So highly recommend you watch this. It's gonna be very good fight.
Alrighty, looking forward to that. And that kind of ties us into our This Week in MMA. As I'm sure many of you know, this week was April Fool's. And April Fool's in 2018 was a particularly interesting one for MMA fans because the Tony Khabib fight had fallen apart. This is the infamous audio cable incident. Tony Ferguson at during UFC media trips over an audio cable, completely blows apart his knee on April Fool's Day. Dana White's got to announce to the entire MMA fandom, nope, this is not an April Fool's joke. With one of the most anticipated fights basically in the history of our sport is off again because Tony blew out his knee on an audio cable. Eric, what was it like as an MMA fan back then hearing this
So
news?
frustrating. I remember even like I was so into UFC. Like this was like I was so into it, and then Max Holloway steps in on like no time, and then he gets forced out, saying that he wasn't going to make the weight, and it was just a disaster. Like it was like, oh my God, it's like one fight, it's like, all right, but Max Holloway's going to come and save us, and then he does, and then he gets forced pulled out by the doctors, who probably don't know anything, and disaster, right? And then Ally Quinta steps up, and Ally Raging Al, man, not that dude. Raging Al's not was not. I mean, good fight, right? He best fight is probably the best fight of his career, right? He arguably won a round on
He made
Khabib,
it
but
5 rounds with Khabib. Yeah.
he did. He made it 5 rounds, but no one expected Ally Quinta to win that. Like Tony Khabib was legitimately like the fight to make.
Yeah. That's
Like
that's the one
that
that
was
got
the fight.
away.
That is the one that got it away. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think it's fair to say that is one of the most ludicrous fight weeks ever. Like going
Yeah,
from
it's just bad though because there's no redemption. Like
no, yeah.
when Aldo pulled out in July, that was like the craziest fight week ever because then Connor's like, I woke up one eye, I said that are all the same. I close my eyes, I go back to sleep. Like he would say that, and then Mendez takes the fight, right? Like on 2 weeks notice. Like that was awesome. That was such a fun time to be a fan. Um,
This was not.
but this one wasn't because there's no redemption. Like there wasn't a good opponent that they could just pull together. Like
Yeah.
they did. It was Max, but then they forced him to pull out of the weight cut. So then the UFC was like, "All right, we tried. That's it." Now you get Raging Al was like maybe like the 15th ranked lightweight.
Yeah. And then of course was the start of Khabib's title run, which I'm sure we'll have some more stuff on revisiting that in the future.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so I think that is it for me. Go watch the fights tonight. Go watch UFC this weekend. Eric, you've given the people some bets to make, so go bet on those fights. Go watch them. And yeah, Eric, anything else?
No, I'm good. We got Scott, who's been upgraded from doubtful to questionable for next week. We are cautiously optimistic of a return to uh, to our guy,
Yes.
Mr. Fontana.
Best wishes to Mr. Fontana and all of you out there. Enjoy the fights this weekend. I will see you next week.